Hello, all. I'm Gabby from mythesiscoach.com, and today I am going to talk about literature reviews. And now, the literature review is the second chapter in your thesis. And I find that if someone is trying to work out what needs to go in a literature review, a thing that helps is to think, well, where is it appearing within the document? So let's look at that. It's coming after the introduction. So you've already given the reader some sort of overview about what your topic's going to be about, some of the background, some of the context, exactly what you plan to look at. That's already happened in the intro. So then comes the literature review, and your third chapter is the methodology. That's where you're really going to delve into what research you are doing for this thesis. So this chapter that we're talking about here, the literature review, is coming second. So it's sort of the bridging point from that overview of a general sense of what the project's about to the very specifics, this is how I'm going to do it. That said, what is its purpose? Well, the purpose is to locate the project that you are wanting to undertake within the literature that already exists. Basically, in the literature review chapter, you are saying to the reader, here's what other people have said about this topic before. Here's what's already been written, what research people have carried out already, what we know about it, and actually more important than what we know about it, what we don't know about it, because that is where your research comes in. So in the literature review, you want to make a really good case for the fact that lots of other stuff has been written, but no one has written this particular thing. So as a way of doing that, I always recommend when I'm working with people and they're writing their literature reviews, I always recommend that they think about the way that they structure their literature review and as a funnel shape. And I always have to go like this when I say funnel shape for some reason. But so why a funnel shape? A funnel starts wide at the top and then gets progressively narrower and narrower as you go down. The funnel shape in a literature review is important because at the beginning of your literature review, you start quite generally at the top with a general overview of what other people have written about the site in general or the research topic in general. And then you get a little bit more specific to where your actual research project is. And then you get a little bit more specific to where your actual research is. And maybe even a little bit more specific until you pop out exactly where your topic is. So let me give you an example of this. Hello to our viewer who's joined us. Let me give you an example of this. Say that you are doing research on the impact of sports drinks for a rugby team. Okay, that is a weird topic, but say that's what you're writing your thesis on. The impact of a particular sports drink on the rugby team's performance. So you might start really wide, the top of your funnel, looking at the different aspects of sport performance. That might be the first load of literature that you survey. Then you might get a little bit more specific and look particularly at the impact of nutrition on sports teams' performance. And then you might get a little bit more specific and look at the impact of beverages, drinks on sports team performance. And then you might get even more specific and look at the impact of beverages on rugby teams' performance. Sorry, say this project is about rugby players. And then you're so close, and then boop, that pops you out at where your topic is. So maybe your topic is looking at the impact of this particular drink. So can you see what it did there? It started very wide, and you would have looked at all the literature to do with sports performance. Then you would have got a bit narrow and looked at all the literature to do with nutrition on sports performance. Gone a bit thing and looked at beverages. Gone a bit down and look at your particular sport, and boop, that pops you out at your project. And you want to show by the time you get to the bottom of that funnel, you want to show that no one has looked at the exact thing that you want to look at, and that is where the value of your research comes in. So the last thing that I want to share with you, this is of course just a short video, not much time for as much as I could talk about literature reviews because this is my jam. But the last thing that I want to share with you is just this last idea. When you are writing a literature review, I want you to think of the literature review as doing two things. It's doing summary and it's doing synthesis. So have a look what this means. This first example is someone who has just done summary. So here's what not to do in your literature review. You can see this person who has written this hypothetical person who has written this hypothetical literature review has just done a summary. Here they've summarized what author 1 says. There they've summarized what author 2 says. There they've summarized what author 3 says. Now, that is an important part of a literature review, but it's not the only thing, and it's not the most important. Actually, what you also need to do on top of this kind of summary is this kind of synthesis. And synthesis means that you're not just saying what these authors said, but you are weaving those together for the reader. Remember, you want to kind of plot out the lay of the land for your reader. So let's look what I've got here. So there are many ways to understand problem X. For example, author 1 explains that blah, blah, blah. Similarly, author 2 describes how yada, yada. In contrast, another way to approach it is whatever it might be. What these 3 different approaches highlight is that ... You can tell the yada, yada, ... are me leaving out the stuff that's not important. But can you see in this example that I've given you, they're weaving, whoever's written this is weaving the sources together. They're showing how author 2 work relates to author's 1 and how author 3's work relates to those 2. And then a sentence here that's pulling it all together, that is weaving it all together as well to synthesize that. And that is the sort of synthesis you should be looking for in your literature review. So there's a lot more to be said about literature reviews. What we covered today is what a literature review is, the work that it does within your thesis, the idea of using a funnel shape to structure your literature review as a whole, and then finally, this idea of synthesis, of summary and synthesis as being really important to an effective literature review. I share way more useful thesis stuff as well on my Thesis Coach YouTube channel. Please go ahead and subscribe to that so you're the first to access new thesis ideas and tips. Similarly, as you can see scrolling along the bottom here, please access my free thesis starter kit if you're just starting out or you're needing a bit of a reinforcement on this whole thesis jazz. Please feel free to use that link over there to access my absolutely free thesis starter kit, where we do talk more about literature reviews. Thank you so much. I hope that you have a wonderful day going further, and I can't wait to carry on with you along this thesis writing journey. Bye.